Coming up, Debbie maxes out Reg's credit card.
So that's a big bunch of flowers going home tonight.
Absolutely.
Dinner.
She gives her top tip for building.
So the moral is pick a good-looking builder.
Pick a good-looking guy like me.
And shares her love for the internet.
I love it when something spits out of someone's mouth. Hi and welcome to the Builders Crack podcast. This is where we go deep on the issues and we leave everything uncovered. I'm Deb, I'm your host today, and I've got Reg Boston from Bellagio Homes. Did I say that right? Bellagio. I've got to say it with some Bellagio Home. I felt like I just hit the biggest gold nugget a few months ago when I met Reg and Troy from Bellagio Homes.
Better.
Is that better? Am I getting better at it? Yeah.
Roll it with the tongue.
Roll it. Is it Italian?
It is. Well, as such, there is the Lake Como, Bellagio in Italy, but the name Bellagio actually came from the casino in Vegas. That's
there you go. So, I'm always intrigued how people come up with their names. So there you go.
So we've got an Aussie and then we've got a Polish guy that run a Bellagio company.
Nice.
So a lot of people think we're Italian, or one of us is, but no.
Yeah.
No.
Is that Troy?
No, Troy's Polish. I'm the Aussie. I'm English Irish.
English Irish. We won't be that hard on you.
Bad.
There's going to be. Well, if you've got Irish in you, then you'll get the crack. Apparently, crack in Irish is to have fun.
Correct.
Something like that.
That's
something
correct.
like that. Yeah, I found that out a few weeks ago and thought it was really, really awesome. But anyway,
sorry.
No, do you know what? You'll find this. We just go on little tangents, and that's fine. And we just have a whole load of fun with it. It's a bit of a dry topic building, so we've got to make it a bit of fun.
It's no fun building houses, is it?
No, not really.
No,
not really. Full of pain and angst and I don't know. Why would anyone do it? Headaches. Yeah.
People get married and get divorced in a build. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I know. Happen.
It can happen.
I'm still married. Thank you. I love her dearly, by the way.
I'm glad you said that. So that's a big bunch of flowers going home tonight.
Absolutely.
Dinner.
Yeah, better write that one down.
Yeah, just make a note of that. So, and I'll witness it afterwards. He's actually writing it down. He's actually writing, get my wife flowers on the way home.
I'll forget.
She can thank me later for that. She can definitely thank me later.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, building is a tough, it's a dry topic to talk about. We have a lot of fun with it, but at the same time, just raising the awareness. And the reason I felt like I hit the biggest gold nugget with you and Troy, I'm always on the lookout for people that have this balanced view of everything that's going on. It's not about pointing the finger. It's not about blame. It's about just having this open discussion, talking about different things that, to make people aware of. And we talked about this the other week on the episode. Most of what I've learned is from conversations like this. So we thought, well, I didn't think it. John, you forgot to say hello, John. Morning, hello, John, the amazing producer over in the corner there. So let me see. You started 1998. You've got quite a few years. I was very impressed with your... 2005,
sorry. I don't know where we've got 98.
You were a trainee. You were a trainee.
That's when I started in the game. Yep.
So you started in the game 1998 as a trainee scheduler. For a builder. You did a lot of supervision and sales. Oh boy, I really want to talk to you about sales. That's kind of where it all starts going wrong.
Well, it does if you don't know what you're doing, or if you've got the
yeah.
wrong people doing it. But we can talk about that.
We can talk about that. You then sort of did a couple of years with a smaller builder. Correct. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about custom builders versus project builders, smaller builders, because even you educated me on the phone the other day about that when you talked about one-man bands. Mm-hmm. We are going to cover... back on your history. You did some commercial stuff, $5 million home. What was that like?
It's scary, intriguing, fun. If you have the right people on board, it's transparent and everyone's on the same page, and the client's expectations are met as well as the client understands the expectations through the process, then it's enjoyable. Yeah. What we do is very enjoyable. It's just transparency, honesty, accountability with everybody involved from the start to the finish. And as long as those things are adhered to or you follow those principles, you'll be okay.
Yeah. And there's expectations both by the homeowner and the builder, right? So both have to match expectations. Mm. So I think we get a bit tunnel vision on that it's only about the homeowner getting their expectations met. But really, the homeowners also have a responsibility to meet the builder's expectations, that reading contracts, being very clear on the direction of what they want and things like that. But anyway, that's kind of a blurred line. But, there's expectations on both sides that need to be met. Yeah. And with that $5 million home, I was really impressed when I read that. So I can't imagine what a $5 million home looks like. But whether you're building a $400,000 home or a $5 million home, process same?
Process changes a little bit because you're managing or you're understanding the expectations of the client. So the client at $500,000-$600,000 is very different to the client that's obviously done very well for themselves, knows exactly what they want, has potentially other parties involved, architects, interior designers, those types of things before we even get involved, because the process is different to Deb coming to me and say, Reg, I want to build a $650,000 home. How do I go about it? Yeah. Well, Deb, this is how my system works, and put you into my funnel and manage and nurture you through the process from start to finish, being design through to the end outcome. Potentially what you're doing with something like that is you're getting a phone call and saying, right, I've got these drawings, would you like to look at it? And obviously that a lot of the front end or a portion of the admin process has already started, so you haven't had the opportunity to meet the client before they've even they've got the idea in their head, but it hasn't come to paper. So you're coming in sort of second fiddle with other parties involved and trying to get involved or learn about the client and understand their expectations and obviously jump on the same page with them to potentially get the build and then do the build, finish the build and have a beautiful home completed. It is a different process. It is very much a different process from in the value of the home. But obviously that's because of the value. Yeah. But if you take it back to its core, the expectation is still that you're coming to someone to provide you a product, have the product completed in this time, with these things done, with the expectation that at the end I'll have a beautiful home, with cupboards in it, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone's got this. Same. The core of it doesn't really change. Yeah. It's just the budget and the managing of that. Right. Obviously, with people with money, you're probably going to need more love. Yeah. As the analogy, but yeah.
That's interesting, and I think I'm laughing at myself because it wasn't a $500 million.
No. But we just rolled with it then. We just rolled with it. Yeah.
We did roll with it. The thing I love about doing this the most is that homeowners get to see me ask the dumb questions or say the dumb things. And there's no dumb things or dumb questions, but it was actually the budget was $500 to $1 million home. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Why do people with money need more love? That was an interesting... it's just something you've seen over time.
Just the expectation of the value. And let's not be rude about it. The value. Okay. The value of what they're doing. I think anyone handing over, although the person with $500,000 handing it over to me probably believes or has the expectation that they would get the same as the $4 or $5 million build, but I guess in all honesty, that expectation would never be known between the totally different. They're so far away from each other. Yeah. It's just that person that's spending that large amount of money it's just in their nature that they've obviously done well for themselves.
Yeah.
The process as such is that they've got themselves to a point that they can do this. So this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Part of my job or our job is to make sure we understand that, as I say, know the beast you're dealing with, and deal with it accordingly.
Yeah.
And it may not be too very different. A great example of that for me is that I've got a few jobs that are in that $650 to $1 million, and then I've got the $4 million build that we've got going on. And in all honesty, the $4 million build is running better than the $650 to $1 million builds, because that, I've got one or two clients down there that just need to be nurtured a little bit more. And that could be a variable of things. They've never been through the process before, so they can't make decisions easily. Procrastinators is, I think, what we call them.
Yeah.
It's a big word. Should write that down.
Would you like to use a notepad underneath, get flowers for my wife?
Yeah, the flowers.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. It's actually written there.
If she ever hears it, I've got to make sure I've got the flowers.
I'm calling her.
All types of variables. And I'll come back to it. It's just understanding your client, understanding it. For me, that's okay, because the volume that we do, I'm not looking to do 50 to 100 homes a year or even more. I'm specific we found our niche based on what we've done in the past or years in the industry, and I've said, well, this is where I think there's an opportunity for us to do a good job, to nurture, create advocates for our business, and our business is pretty much word of mouth referral, which is the greatest advocate that you can have.
100%.
Amazingly so, it still goes on after 16 years and every year coming back around, you sit there and say, right, so we want to be doing this amount of homes, where are we going to find them? And then the phone rings.
Yeah.
Hey, you built a house for my friend, you built a house for my brother, or et cetera, or past clients coming back around.
Yeah.
Second time. We've had quite a few of those.
And that's amazing. This is where I can never get it. They're the ones that you want. They're the ones that you have had a good experience and they come back. Or they're telling people. But what I think we see in the project builders and the general market, they get to the end of the build. We had an inspector on a few weeks ago, and he said 95% of people don't want to build, don't ever want to do it again. And so now you're cutting off your market and your supply chain because people aren't happy. People aren't feeling. And I love the fact you use the word nurture, because I think this is a key element that is missing with a lot of it. It's just there's hamster wheel, let's get on it. This is what it takes to build a house. So, obviously a smaller or a custom builder can do that, nurture more. So, yeah, no.
Well, it leads into your question, project to custom and what it is. And it's they're there for a reason, and they do the job. And the market says we need the project guys to do what they do, and then there's the space for custom. Now, your project. So why project? Well, because the differences between project and custom. Well, you could talk all day about it, but really in the cust is that they're there they're there as a volume builder. So it's like buying a car. You can go look at 5 cars. You can pick one. You'll pick up that car in a couple of weeks or a month, and then you'll drive it out the yard and off you go, and that's your car for the next 5-10 years, whatever it might be. Project gives people the opportunity to say or do that. They can go look at the product and they can say, that's it, that's what you're going to get. And look, it's very different as well to buying a car, because when you buy a car, you can see the car.
I was just going to bring that up.
You can feel it. And of course it's there, and you can get confidence or know that, yep, I'm comfortable with this. I'm no different. I've been looking around for cars for a little bit now, and I'm just like, well, you look at something and go, no, that's not for me. You go look at other, just a couple more, and you figure out where you're going to stand. Put that to a house. So project, it's there. You can touch it, you can feel it, and the rep will go, well, this is it, and you can sit there and say, what's in the product? Well, yeah, you can have this, so you can touch it, you can feel it.
But if we're going to go on that, just touch on it very quickly using the car analogy. A lot of people, when they walk into the display homes, they're looking at the Rolls Royce. But when they get to pre-start, often find out they've got the Datsun and they have to upgrade to the Rolls Royce. Would that be a fair analogy?
It's a very good analogy, and we come across that quite a lot, because although we're a custom builder, let me just say, custom doesn't mean expensive. What custom is that we build 15 to 20 houses a year. And in our space, if your brief meets your budget, then we can head down the road, jump into our funnel, as what I call it, and head down the road and nurture you to a design, something that's designed for you, for what you're looking for, that you can afford. And obviously, all being relative, we head down that road to a build, completion, give you the keys. The thing is with that is that you can't touch and feel that. Now, we've had it many a times where we'll have a potential client say, oh, but that builder over there can do this for 50, 60 grand cheaper. And if we've done our homework or we understand, and if the client's being open and transparent with us and telling us where they've been, then we can sit there and go, okay, but do you understand what you're getting? Have you been into that house, as an example, that has a floating timber floor, timber stairs, stud walls up, and have you had a heap of kids running through there while you've been standing downstairs in the kitchen? Because when you walk into the display home and there's only one or two people there and telling everyone not to touch anything, and everyone's being quiet because you don't want people hear you talking.
Trying to. I'm going to give this deal to these people, but I can't afford to give it to those people because I need to use my slush fund to.
So then it's education.
Yeah,
education. So then we'll sit there and say, well, do you understand what you're getting in that product? Because there's a reason why it's that dollar. And I've done it heaps of times. Part of my process is as an owner of a building company, but as the front line, is I've got to understand what the market's telling me. Yeah. So I'll go out there and I'll look in display homes. I'll put my casual t-shirt on and take Melissa and the kids, and we'll go for all and go in there and ask the difficult question. Oh, yeah, I'm looking around, and you'll sit there and the guy will go, yep, everything in this house for this number, and you're like, really, really? And sometimes it's like, wow, gee, market's changing, but obviously I know what I'm looking for, and I know how they're constructing their product. So I'll sit there and go, well, yeah, you can understand why the dollar's what it is. But Deb walking into a display home saying, I've got this budget and I know I can have all these things, and then once the house is finished, I've got a little bit of money so I can have the TVs, I can have the nicer couch, I can have all these things. Because the kids of today...
That sounds like the dream, but it doesn't work out that way.
if I can use that analogy, the kids of today, everything's got to be now.
Yeah.
No one wants to do it hard or, live on concrete floors or no curtains. Not to say that you do, but... everyone wants the finishes, the landscaping, the pool. They want the lifestyle all said and done in one hit.
Yeah. And I had that conversation with Troy a few weeks ago, and he made a very interesting statement, because I was very much under that impression that it's about people wanting everything now and having it yesterday and that sort of thing. And he said it was driven a lot by financial institutions as well, that the banks are wanting people to finish the home, so they've got a product that if they get into any trouble, they can just pass off.
Correct.
So, and that was a huge eye-opener for me, because up until then I had this assumption that it was just everybody wanting everything now, and so...
Well, no, you're right. And so taking another step where the clientele, we're not first, second homeowners, we're potentially third or fourth homeowners, but then people that haven't built before but have done all right for themselves, maybe have their own business or have good jobs, doctors, nurses, engineers, pharmacists, etc. But yeah, in the past few years, the structure of what finance brokers and banks want is the turnkey finish.
Yeah.
So that if anything was to happen between the start and the finish, the bank would know that they could take the build over, finish the build, and then sell the house and get their money back. So correct, it's driven by, as much these days too, is driven by, like Troy was saying, that it's got to be all on one page. And literally you're asking someone, which is very difficult for the builder as well, because you're asking a couple looking to build, and then myself as a builder, to say, right, your house, your base, or your house is going to cost this, and then you need to do curtains, you need to paint your walls, you need to do your landscaping, you want a pool, okay, put that number in. You're probably going to want a few more light points, you're going to want better Caesar stone or Esser stone or whatever it might be, or stone in your kitchen than what's the standard. So you've got to really go from the front and do budgets for selections before they've even got to meeting the interior designer.
Yeah.
Or going through a pre-start consultant.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing because, look, pros and cons of it is that you've really set someone to what they can spend. So as they head down the road, it really should be a bit easier to say, well, you can't afford that because your budget says this. So pick something in this range. So that helps.
Yeah.
But really, outside of that, if they want Calcutta Novo stone, which is the most expensive thing in town.
I was just about to ask what that was.
Yeah, well, then, you're going to blow budgets. And how does that look? Oh, so are they going to pay for that outside of their contract? Yeah, it starts to get interesting.
And then, it gets interesting, but also then they start looking at, can I have that done after the build? It blurs lines of warranties and, can I buy my own products and get them to put them in? And, it's endless really. But we hear that a lot, don't we?
Correct.
Where they want to either... Actually, this was one that came up the other day. Can I have my own trades? Can I choose my own trades? So I'm building with you, but I want to bring my own trades in. Now, we're talking project builder here. This is what happened with a project builder. And they can, tapping into your experience with project building, homeowners can do that, but then you run a bit of a risk by doing that, don't you? Because then does it create a loophole? Is that a misconception I have?
No, because look, it just depends on the builder, but realistically, you could bring it. Okay, so who are you bringing in? There's various parts to this, in my opinion, and that is there's what's structural in a home. So I've got my own concreter, I've got my own plumber.
Yeah.
Although plumbing is not a structural thing.
They wanted their brickie.
Yeah. So
Uncle Joe, who's been bricking for 20 years, want him to do my brickwork.
It's alarm bells because if a wall cracks, and it potentially could be not because of the brickie, it could be because of the concrete. Well, your builder's going to go, well, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
Because
you chose your trade.
It was the brickie, but it might stem, further into that and be an error in footings or slab. Not to say, but by doing that, you're compromising your warranties obviously straight away. In our structure, I would say no. Anything structural in regards to the structural warranty that goes into a home, flat out no, because of that reason.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by the loophole. It creates this loophole. It's not about giving a builder an out, but as you said, there's so many things that happen structurally from ground up that it could be any component, and then how do you prove it? It's hard enough as it is when you have a problem, even with your builder, you have a problem and you have to prove.
Well, go spend some money and find out for yourself, and then if it does end up being the builder and his footings or his slab or whatever it might be, but not the bricklayer, then you've got that task after the fact of getting those monies and those costs back from your builder, which again is another process. And they usually fight it to the death knock.
100%. And this is why intervention is so important. This is why a lot of the podcasts are about talking about what to expect, what sort of things do you do to protect yourself, have knowledge around different components of construction, because if you know that, the stuff that we often doesn't get talked about is the stuff that people probably need to know to go, oh, okay, didn't realise that. We're not telling you that to scare you. We're telling you that so you have an awareness that you need to protect it. It's you'll never spend this sort of money. People never spend this sort of money on anything, and we find that it's the biggest thing that people are taking risk on.
Just as a moment, this is the biggest thing that people will do in their life, and we had a bit of a chuckle about it at the start, but it does put weight, or does affect relationships if the process doesn't run as the expectation that you might have had. And usually in everyone's relationship is that there's, as I would see it, you get the phone call from the bloke. If I can be frank about this, you'll get the phone call from the bloke and the inquiry and things like that. but then the wife or the partner is just there in the background, coming up the side, getting ready to get involved.
Yeah.
When she as you start heading down that road a bit.
Yeah.
And usually the person that's sort of making or breaking the decisions can be or will be the female.
Yeah.
But so
did you just say that females are the strongest sex then?
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're the boss.
Can you just say that again? What did you call me?
No, I'll leave it.
Boss. You're right though. It's a two-person. A lot of the time, we see mostly couples come in. Two people are trying to make a decision about one product. So, and who's got the louder voice? It's not that women aren't.
No, but what I was trying to say there,
we're more emotional though.
Yeah, of course.
So, and this is why I've been banging this drum. Building is an emotional thing for a regular person, but for the building company, it's business. So you've got two different relationships happening. So I would imagine, and it's interesting that you've said that, because I would imagine dealing with a male, it's more business.
Correct.
Because of the way the brain's wired, and then with women, it's more emotional. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just, it's interesting that
you're exactly right.
Yeah. So we need to shift women to being a bit more business minded about it, and enjoy it at the end. Have that expectation really low, and then build it as the build goes on.
There's so many parts to it that it's the biggest thing people will potentially do in their life. Now, some people will do it a couple of times. A lot of people will only ever do it once in their life.
I did it twice.
So, well, there you go. But you're vesting, you're trusting in somebody or a company to do the right thing by you.
Yeah.
And a lot of trust, because it just doesn't happen. It's not you sign something today and it's finished tomorrow. It's a process, and it's a journey.
Yeah.
And the journey starts from the minute you meet the person, the sales rep, myself, however it might be. And that process through the front end, the admin, the designs, the excitement of seeing those thoughts in your head on a piece of paper, the tough conversations, the dollars, where the market's at, is this the right time to be doing it? Finance, like we've already touched on. Who's your broker? Or banking with, how do they want this agreement structured? All these components. Designing something that ticks a client's brief, ticks the zoning and policies of the block or a developer. So many parts that could really come unstuck at any time, and not for any reason.
No,
we're all human. In Troy's and my process, it's all about it's always about meeting the client, understanding the client's wants and needs, concerns or worries through the process, and whether we can be on this journey with them for really what could be 6 months from an admin planning, getting a building license, to starting on site and building a single-story home in 6 to 8 months, or a 2-story home in 10 to 12 months, depending on the size. Excuse the phrase, you're in bed with someone for at least 12, 18, 24 months.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer.
So the moral is pick a good-looking builder.
Pick a good-looking guy like me who's got a really good-looking business partner, and hope it all goes well for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, and I think this is where, as much as the project guys are trying to do this, it's where it gets lost a little bit. It's very, very hard to have that journey with so many people.
Well, getting back to project to custom, So you're going to go see a sales rep in a display home, and the rep's got his parameters of what he can do and what this house is worth and all these things. And then they've got the house, they've got what's in it, and they've got the add-ons. So you're going to do that process of picking a home, maybe tweaking a wall or doing a few things with them.
Yep.
And then once you've signed up or done the preliminary agreement or PPA, whatever they want to call it, or how they do it, and then you head into the project system. He's going to wave bye and he'll say, I'll always be here, or you can always call me, but really you're going to leave his process or that front end process and go into the structure of the company, which is a client liaison.
Usually multiple.
Exactly.
The turnover is
admin. There'll be, and you're right. It's an organisation. They're doing volume, and they will go. It's just human nature. People will come and go, especially in the process of building a home. I mean, in all honesty, in that process, if you didn't lose anyone on the way through in that year to 18 months of building, that you've done pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you head into that system, and that pre-start, that admin or client liaison really only has the paperwork of what's happened, with the rep back here, but hasn't really sat or, they've had sat there and understood, look, this is Deb, she's doing a 4x2, her concerns are that time, might take too long. She's got a really strict budget, so we can't go past here. It's sort of, he's done his job, in you go, into their funnel, hi, this is Reg, your new client liaison, and yeah. And then that person really needs to review the documentation, review the information and find the holes. And off you go. They
don't have time to do that. So, and this discussion is in no way swaying people one way or another. It's just about bringing it all up to the surface and saying, well, this is what it looks like. This is what happens, in there. And we talk about, you brought up PPAs. Oh, a bit of a thorn in my side, PPAs, because,
because you said that to me before.
Yeah, because I get a lot of phone calls. And
what's your phone call?
I know that this is a painful topic, because with PPAs, what I get a lot of is people ringing and then saying, I signed a PPA, I don't want to build with the builder anymore. Can I get out of it? Am I locked in? And there seems to be this loss in transition of conversation or dialogue, what the PPA is really about. So, for instance, I had a homeowner call me, what was it, a few weeks ago now, had signed a PPA, decided that they didn't want to build anymore for whatever reason. But what they hadn't realised is they were locked in and they'd given an agreement to have all this work done. So to pull out now, they were going to lose more than a deposit. So that's the first number one thing. They think it's a deposit. It's not a deposit. Number two, they're unaware of what they potentially are signing. So for this woman, for her to exit out of the contract, she wasn't at pre-start yet. For her to exit the contract, there was something, I can't remember. The surveys had been done, drawings had been done, but it exceeded, I don't know.
So really what's going on, or if I'm understanding this right from you, it seems like they'll do the PPA, and they'll take a bit of money, but then they'll take it, really, they'll do a lot more work than what the preliminary agreement sort of funds would account for.
Yeah.
And then when someone goes, no, Barley's, I'm not comfortable in this situation anymore, or I just can't do it, they'll turn around and say, well, hang on, we've gone and done all this work. So A, you don't own the rights to these plans. It's another conversation one day.
Yes.
You don't own the rights to these plans, and we've gone and spent all this money, and you now owe us this. Now, somewhere in that paperwork, because obviously you've been getting the phone calls, and I'd like to think you've read the information.
Yeah.
That documentation will say that they have the right to charge the client for all the works that have been completed.
That's correct.
So what does it come back to?
Well, conversations, dialogue, transparency.
People not reading the information in front
I was
of
just
them.
about to go there, people not reading and understanding what they're signing. So it's also much of a whirlwind. In that time that you first sit down with a salesperson, then you get taken the PPA, and it's a lot of information to take on. So I can understand why it's getting missed. Again, it's looking at both sides of why it's being highlighted. So why are we not making changes to that system? Why are we not looking at what can be done to make it more of a direct hit?
Well, is the system not working because people aren't reading the information? The sales rep or the person, myself, isn't going through that information with the potential client before they sign that. You see, and look, I'm human, and yes,
Are you? Hang on, let me poke you.
I'm a custom builder.
Hang on, good-looking human who's buying flowers, making mental notes along the way.
Yeah.
You are human. Everyone is human in this process,
doing this for myself for 16 years, always learning. There's always something that with every client, there's always something that makes you go, yeah, you're right. And really, in my process, because I do it every day, so I'll sit there and go, oh yeah, Deb, this is how I do it. This is a document, and I will breeze through it but I know it. Yeah. Now, Deb doesn't know that and probably hasn't had the opportunity to read that and go through that themselves. So I find, for me, I'm saying, well, this is the process and this is how the process works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the document and I want you to read it. And then I want to discuss that document with you before we sign it. Yeah. And that's the start. And that has to happen with every piece of paper that you put in front of people. Now let's jump to a building contract. That's 32 pages of a HIA.
Hang on a minute. Have we got 365 days to talk about this topic?
Oh, it's going to be another chat. It has to
be. Everybody that sat in that chair has said it's going to be another podcast. It's going to be another subject. The contracts are.
It's another thing, isn't it? But the PPA,
it's another thing.
And sorry, because I jumped.
Yeah,
but the PPA,
we tend to do this.
The PPA is obviously the first port of call for the builder to engage a potential client to get them into the funnel, I'll call it, or into their system, and then develop that however that may look, tweak the design, windows, boom, 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 to get them, down the track.
Can you do it without a PPA?
Wow.
I don't know.
I mean, who wants to? Just stepping back to the process we were talking about with the person that rung you. What hasn't been explained, I guess, is that the PPA was signed, and then the rep hasn't said, well, in this PPA, we're going to do this, which is written there.
It is written there.
Now, and then he hasn't said, but if we get down here and you decide you don't want to do it, it's going to cost you a percentage, or it's going to cost you whatever we figure out the cost is, which will be time, doing planning, drawings. So from the builder's point of view, they're on their road. They've really got a license to take it really as far as they want. I don't really understand it myself because they're doing works and don't have the funds. Yeah. So why would you do works not having an agreement or a contract in place? You've got the preliminary agreement or the PPA completed, but that really covers for specific works.
Yeah, which kind of is needed.
That isn't explained in dollars on that document. So they're doing all this work saying, well, we'll take $2,000, but it's going to cost us $6,000. Oh, Deb goes, no, I can't do this anymore. Oh, by the way, you now owe us $4,000.
So do we put a dollar amount next to them? Would that be more transparent?
Well, yes.
And in saying that, we're not...
But why not?
Yeah,
the other thing is, in the structure, and I do the same, is that the money is paid, prior to doing the building contract. So say between the preliminary agreement to actually signing contracts. Let's say you give me $10,000, $12,000 and your deposit's $30,000. Well, the 12 comes off the 30 and you owe us 18.
Yeah.
So
which I think is the case.
Correct.
I think it is the case, isn't it?
But that's right. Get to the other question. Has the person, and usually in that space you'll find that money's tight and they're financing most of it, or there's some finance deal going on that they'll only be able to give $1,000, and the broker within the building company or things, they'll structure it to make sure the person can afford the house once it's finished. So there's that component of that setup and that structure. So in my space, it's obviously a bit different. If I can use me as an example,
you sure
usually
can.
they've they've done okay. They've saved funds. They've done it before. They'll have that money. But what I do make very clear is I make the pathway forward, if that's what we want to call it, and something that Troy and I developed over and only over the last year or so. Like I say, it's forever evolving and changing landscape.
Yeah,
very hard, especially when you're doing project builds, to have your whole team potentially 10 to 20
it would be a
sales
logistic
reps,
nightmare
to have everyone on the same page and going and understanding everything that's going on in the market right now. It's just crazy.
So is this where we could educate the homeowners a little bit more, so that when they're going to sales, they're asking the questions? Because really, when you look at that structure, you're only dealing with one person. They're asking the salesperson particular questions, which is essentially making it better moving forward for any builders. You know, is there a concept there that, you know, we should be targeting different?
Absolutely. Obviously, with everything you do, have it on an email or in writing. That's first and foremost. But yeah, for the potential client to educate themselves, you know, what your brief, or if you're, it just depends where they're at. If it's the first or second home, or, you know, they've done okay, everyone's different. But I guess the questions are all the same. What's my budget? What's my expectations? How am I going to get those outcomes? How can I educate myself to achieve those outcomes? And what's going on in the market at the time? You see, the market 12 months ago is very different to now.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the grants, with COVID, and all these things that have happened. They've introduced a grant that they thought or has gone 3 times over what they thought, you know, people would sign up for, which has created this
Pressure cooker.
Good word, of not enough trades, not enough materials, which obviously sends everything up because supply demand is needed.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at. You compound that with things like the New South Wales fires, where pine plantations got burnt out. So pine's hard to get. It's coming. You go for a walk through Bunnings one day and look at the shelves and see what's written on the side. It's from Indo, or it's coming from everywhere because we just don't have it. But it's supply and demand, so they've got to get it. So we'll pay more.
All right. And this is why I love having these conversations, because, you know, that wasn't even something I had considered, that is impacting it. So, you know, there's the stock standard of, you know, the last 5 years, the steel factories, the timber yards, all that have been, the brickies have been doing it tough. And, you know, now you've got that supply and demand happening. And so that's, again, why prices, but something like the fires wasn't something that, you know, you'd even consider.
So do you think let's go back to last August, September, 2020. So do you think back then, when someone walked into a display home and said, I'm going to get the state government's 20 grand, and I'm going to the federal government's 25 grand, and I'm going to save myself 45 grand on a build. This is a good time for me, you know, to get into the market. Fast forward that to now, where the documentation probably just been finished. They're looking to go to site. Concrete's gone up, timber's gone up, steel's gone up. So a builder's signed you on a number 8 months ago.
Yeah.
That would easily be, in my opinion, around 17 to 25% more than what it was at August, September last year, because of the landscape, the material shortages, the trade shortages. In my opinion, when this was all going on, and Troy and I talk about it a lot, obviously, because we're, you know, in our structure, we're on the front line. Yeah. We you know, I'm obviously talking to people, but then we're getting the information from the trades, the suppliers, and the like, and seeing it every day. Yeah. The price rises coming through. We would see, I reckon, 2 or 3 a week, nicely.
Yeah.
Probably even more some weeks, but it's just been, and we're not talking 2, 3, 4%. We're talking 8, 12, 15%. From what I understand, I believe the timber's gone up between January to now, something like 32%. So in someone's structure, so builders, let's say builders' margin is 20%.
Yeah.
So that's what he's making when Deb builds a house.
Yeah.
Let's say his overheads are 10%.
Yeah.
So his overheads, after you give him 20, he takes the 10 out from opening his doors, having the supervisor drive around.
Your liaison
like
supervisor, draftsman, all of that.
Doing all that. So he's making 10% profit. So, and between, just on one item. So if you I gave a client a number in February. I gave him a new number 2 weeks ago, and it had jumped 17%.
Ouch.
So you're gone. As a smaller, if I can use it, or a one-man band builder, how can you wear that? How can you? You can't. You have to. And I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people come in my door that were potentially looking to go with a one-man band, a guy that's just small. And look, in the past, no worries, because there wasn't these issues a year ago. Now there are issues.
Yeah.
And the guy that just does it for himself will actually get on the trowel or do bits and pieces himself, doesn't have the trade base because he's only doing a couple a year. And these guys are getting pulled. I mean, even in our space, you've got people, supervisors, builders, pulling over and talking to you guys saying, we'll give you this, come and work for us.
Yeah.
They got no hope.
Yeah.
They won't survive.
It's sad, isn't it? It's sad all around. Could have been forecasted.
Well, who could have forecast COVID?
Well, not COVID. Couldn't have forecast COVID, but we have seen throughout history, booms, supply and demand always increases prices. Could that have been predicted in some way that we're going to go out there with a stimulus? It's going to create more people, building. That's going to then increase the supply and demand. We need to factor this in now so that people aren't being blindsided? Or does that come back to contract and the 45-day clause and again, it's an endless topic, but it's not like we haven't had booms. I don't like calling this a boom. This isn't a... People are calling it a boom, but
this isn't a boom.
It's just a busy time, and it's not a good busy.
This is
it's
dangerous.
not a good busy.
This is an Armageddon.
Yeah.
This is dangerous.
Yeah, very
for
dangerous.
Everybody. And I don't think... I'm not trying to sound like it's the end of the world.
No.
No one could predict this, like I said before, but none of us got a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Like I said, the government, the federal government, their assumption was that they would have 40,000, 50,000 people jump on these grants. They've had something like 130, 140,000, take up these grants. So, there was always, that back end's always going, this is what we think the stimulus will do and this is what it will do. Take it back again to a building market in Perth itself where over the last 5-6 years, the Perth market, houses built or residential houses built in the Perth market would have sat around between 12 to 14,000. So in a good year, the market, back before, I guess, what would we say, around 2015, things like that, the market would probably do around 23 to 25,000. In the boom, it was doing 32,000. So really, before these grants came through, the industry that would, in a good year, would do 25 was doing half of that. So, builders were struggling.
Yeah.
And the market wasn't there. But what you've all of a sudden done is you've created a market, and then everyone that thought to sit on their hands and say, wait for better times, thought this is the time. And now all of a sudden we've got this influx of people that probably wouldn't have even thought about it or were umming and ahhing and gone, yep, we're going to do it. Or people going, well, if we don't do it now, we're never going to be able to afford our home. It's everyone's dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have your own home.
Yeah. Well...
Get your kids into the market.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. The Australian dream. Own a house.
And it's the biggest nightmare. Why would anyone want to do it?
Not with me.
No, not with Bellagio. Look, I agree with you. We don't want to. We're the same. We don't want to scare homeowners. We don't want to be bringing these topics to the surface and then having a whole pile of people running around being scared to death. I feel for them. They're seeing the news. They're seeing building companies going under. Communication is really low at the moment because everyone's busy. It's also end of financial year. So those things are happening, and people are going, I haven't heard from my builder, don't know what's going on, nothing's happening on site. Is this a company that's going under? And I think, you know, there's no way of easing that pain for anyone other than to say, you know, talk to your builder, be upfront, share how you're feeling. Obviously, you don't want to bring up. They're not a counselling service, but they can only do so much.
No, but you feel like sometimes you are because
I think you guys all do need to be.
The worst thing you could do is not talk to your client.
Yeah,
and not dialogue or be transparent about what's going on, how it's affecting us, potentially how it's affecting them.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, dollars and cents are dollars and cents. But once you're in the process, people want to know that they're going to get the product.
Yeah.
And that they're going to get their home. They're going to get their dream. And that puts pressure on everybody. Relationships, people, families, kids, you know, builders, on everybody.
I'm yet to find a builder that's out there going, whose life can I destroy today? You know, they just don't exist.
There's more chance that their lives are going to be destroyed.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I don't, no one's got the crystal ball. I mean, I do it for a living, and on a small scale compared to, you know, the businesses that are out there. But, it's... I could sit here and say, you know, in 16 years you've seen so many different variables, you know, a boom, a bust, the roller coasters, never ending. And this is just one of those again. But how does it end?
Yeah, well, it's a cycle, isn't it? It's a cycle, and it's a cycle of life. I think the thing to remember is always that behind everything there is human beings, there's human lives, you know, that they all, you know, everybody does have families and relationships, as you said, you know, financial strain. We've all got our stuff happening, haven't we? You know, and it's just being mindful of it and thinking of it. And I feel like we live in a society that COVID affected everyone, without a doubt, moving just a fraction away from building. COVID affected everyone so dramatically, and the mindsets of people that we sort of became closed off. You know, human relationships were affected even more. And I think the more we talk, the more we be a little bit vulnerable and say, look, this is how I'm feeling, without going to a touchy-feely whole segment. I think the more we do this, you know, people think that, you know, telling someone how they feel is exposing their vulnerability, and it's not cool. But a matter of fact,
how much better do you feel?
You feel better, but also...
You know, I mean, you can't speak for the outcome of doing that.
No.
And I guess it's personalities and people. You know, you might get the hard and fast bloke or person that says it is what it is. But then you'll get the, you know, he's got a bit more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? He's just more human side, emotion, and can see, you know, you'd be stupid not to think that if you know your client's good enough, then you're gonna see it coming. Yeah. And
I just think we take away an opportunity if we're not being honest with our feelings, if we're not, you know, sharing that.
People don't want to be vulnerable, Deb.
Well, I know,
it's called life.
Well, no, I'm teaching them to be vulnerable.
Good luck.
It's my whole mission in life is to get people to. They don't need the drama, okay? We don't need to go into the whole drama of I feel really, 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 really angry at you. No, it's just I'm angry. This is the behaviour that or where I feel angry at, and this is how, you know, I'd like to work together at finding that solution. It's about working together.
But how can you be vulnerable when you've got layers? I mean, look.
You need to do my assertiveness training.
As a builder, look, let's be honest, it's not just one way. We have to as well.
Yeah.
And that's a very tough thing because you're potentially exposing a bit what's actually going on and where you're at. Now, in all honesty, in these times, I don't think that's a bad thing because no one knows the outcomes. I mean, you know, I've got good trades, you know, we've got good suppliers, but, you know, I could cop a phone call this afternoon saying we can't supply that timber. We haven't got anything.
And then you've got to have that conversation.
Now, everyone's trying to do their best, and when, you know, builders in all, we're not bad people.
No. Well, that's what I mean. I don't think anyone wakes up going, I'm going to destroy someone's life.
And it's not a one-way street. I'm living it as much as the person I'm building for, because I want the outcomes for them too. And look, okay, let's make it a monetary thing. If I'm not doing it, if I'm not building the house, and I'm not earning an income, so what happens to me? What happens to my staff?
Yeah.
What happens to where's our outcome? So obviously it's a bigger thing than just saying, well, it's not just the client. It's just not the person that's building for the first time or second, or is your client. The whole process, everyone's involved. Everyone has to be on the same page.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense if you don't want to do that. But you can appreciate in a big structure. That's very difficult because, like we were saying a little while ago, to sit 250 people down, or just your supervisors and your sales reps, and look, I don't know, I'm not in that structure, but I would like to think it could be very difficult because your mindset and how you take the information in is going to be very different to how I do it. And then your narrative to your clients is going to be very different to me. Now, I've been doing it for a very, very long time and in a specific space. And I guess our structure is that's just how we've always been. Everybody's got to be doing that now. Project, one-man bands, customs, everybody. Because you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. And this is why teaching the homeowners is so important to me, because so with my assertive training, I am actually a licensed certified trainer in assertiveness. But if...
You don't think I'm assertive, Deb?
I think you're very assertive.
Oh, thanks, Deb.
Can you let me talk? I feel really sad right now that you're not letting me have my voice.
I'll be quiet now.
Can someone get the masking tape, the gaffer tape?
Please go on.
No. So with the homeowner, actually, I was thinking that maybe you were doing a better job than me, and I do like the way that you are asking me questions. It's working. This is working. I always said from the beginning that you would be awesome being on this podcast. But back to the homeowner. Yeah. And being educated.
Sorry.
I realised after 3 years, so I pretty much did the 3 years study deep into what's going on, and I don't have the answers, but I know that it's not one person's fault. What I did identify, what started out as me building a building course because I thought homeowners need to know how to build, I moved away from that and realised it had to be a skill set course. It's more training in... how to be able to say, okay, Mr. Builder, you do this all the time, but voicing their expectation without feeling like they're offending the builder. And, again, it goes back to that builder relationship, the relationship at play. Teaching them that, it's okay to send a letter off and just saying, this wasn't how I thought it was going to be. It is layers. We are layered, for sure, but just being able to be a little bit more upfront, but also teaching the homeowner. There's so much to it. That's the problem. There's so much to it. Teaching the homeowners. So I hear a lot of, the site manager, I knew there was a problem. He's telling me there's no problem. And I've said this is customer service. They don't want to unnecessarily worry you. They want you to enjoy the process. And if they say, well, yeah, look, that wall is out, or yeah, that wall needs to, that's going to create panic on a topic that they don't have a full depth of understanding. So, it's all these little things. So I realised that what I was building was a skill set course of how to communicate, send that email off, be really direct with your email. It's okay, they're not going to be offended, it's business. How to handle their emotions, their expectations and things like that. But talking like this exposes where I've got it wrong and where not got it wrong, but
that,
yeah.
It's a... Look, you're educating yourself still as well.
Oh, yeah,
and although
100%.
You've built twice and you... Well,
Well, do you know what?
Because you know the process. So you know the process or have a good understanding of it because you've been through the process, and then you're still educating yourself to how the process can be done better. So you're an advocate to for someone to say, well, you know, this is what I've learnt, this is what I understand it to be, and this is how I've found it's worked, or how I've got the outcome that with the builder, with me, that I'm confident in what he's doing and that the job gets done.
Yeah.
You're right, the procrastinator or the person that isn't getting the outcomes and then's there every day and he starts picking on everything. So that becomes the client that you don't want. And you only need one, whether you're looking after 5 jobs, 10 jobs, 25. You only need one of those and that'll bog you down till that issue, if we want to call it, or concern is sorted out.
Yeah.
Or like you say, you nip it in the butt. The other thing about what you were saying is the hard and fast, or not hard and fast, sorry, but the emails. You see, that's where I'll sit there and say, well, hey, I'm a bit like, well, we can always have something put in writing, but to get on the phone and be able to speak to somebody and then say, okay, I'm going to put this in an email, because an email can be misconstrued. How you write your email, and you're saying, well, you're trying to be nice, but this is my concerns. I'll read it and say, well, hang on, Deb's having a go at me here.
Well, see, this is why assertiveness.
This is
where assertiveness is really clean and really it's there you go. Well, that leads me in to our last questions.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Burning through it.
Oh, do you know what? We get in here and it's like 2 hours. It goes like that. Yeah. So I definitely think that you're probably going to be a regular visitor. So I just want those balanced approaches, and I love being challenged. I love, you know, that you go, well, hang on, Deb, you know, let's face it. I mean, you even took control for a while there. I was worried I wasn't going to get the mics back. Yeah. So anyway, look, let's round it out. 5 tips for people building. What are your 5 top tips for people building? Can be anything.
Look, education. You can't say it enough, but educate yourself. Understand your budget, understand your brief, and know what market that is that you're looking to, whether that be project or custom, whatever that might be. But just, you know, make sure you understand your space before you head, you know, into the market asking 20 questions. Education, like I've said before, it's just understanding, and the conversations we've had, the stuff that's in front of you, you know, at how the process works. Every builder does it differently. There's no hard and fast rule. There's similarities, like we all have our PPAs and then our contracts, and the system and structure as such across the board would be no different. But just understanding that. Ask questions. Talk to friends.
Yeah.
You know, don't be, I guess, shy, or don't think you're bulletproof. Like we've been talking about, humble. Be human. Yeah. I mean, if you've this is the biggest thing you'll do in your life. It's not a car. It's not 25, 30, 50 grand.
Yeah.
It's 250, 300, 500, $1 million.
Yeah. And you want to build a home that outlasts your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Talk to people that would be a right fit. You know, get to understand, do your homework on the builders you're looking at, understand their product, and make sure you ask questions to them. Can you meet past clients? Obviously, if they've got display homes, that's great. But like you say, a display home is a polished turd.
Yeah.
Right? After that, once you actually break it down and you actually understand what you're getting, it's going to be chalk and cheese. So your homework on the builder, where they're at. And I think that's a big one in the market right now for all levels. More so for your first homeowners and first, second homeowners, because in my opinion, you've seen guys come out of nowhere that are now all of a sudden building 50, 80, 100 homes that you probably haven't heard a lot of, and how are they going to get the trades? How are they structured? Who's behind them? You know, you always be safe. You've got your big 4 or 5, and you know those guys. So really, if you're looking at those guys, you'd like to think you're pretty safe.
Yeah.
In all honesty, anything after that, I'd be asking a lot of questions and trying to find out as much information as possible, because with what's going on right now, I think a few will fall away.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we've seen it. It's going to happen, and it's funny that you should mention that, because all of a sudden we're starting to hear about builders that I'd never heard about before, and I'm like, hang on a minute, are these just smaller ones that are coming to life because the more I do this, the more I'm being exposed to it? I also noticed that there's been we're starting to see a bit of a ramp up of advertising for building.
Well, that's because the party's over.
Yeah, so they've got to start thinking
come
2 years.
December 31st last year, the grants were over.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm right. Sorry, I think I am.
Yeah.
But so builders have filled their books, but what happens after that? So they fill their books, there's some money coming in the door. As they do, they direct it to the marketing and say, right, well, what happens after this? I don't know what this looks like after.
No, and I don't think many people
and I
do.
think that's part and parcel while they're doing what they're doing, because what happens after this has occurred? We get to the end of it, then do we go back to the 12, 13 a year? How does that look? Is the industry looking at a healthy period of 3 to 5 years because of immigration, mining? The silent partner in all this is the WA market, mining, et cetera. That's a busy space, or has been. I won't say boom, or probably is a boom, but it's there. It's in our face.
Yeah.
So how does it look after this? I'm not sure. There's so many factors.
I know, because I was lying there this morning thinking about this, because you've got homeowners being told you're looking at 12 to 18 months for their build, but then you've got to start thinking about beyond this. So what sort of dialogue, what sort of conversations are happening now, with people? I actually thought myself going out to the spay homes and, oh, hang on, maybe I should cover my face so people don't recognise me. But yeah, what are the
top on and shorts?
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to see me in a pair of shorts, baby. For sure. But how do it must be crazy to try and even. Well, I can't get my head around it. You are doing it all the time.
And I can't get my head around it.
So you can't get your head around it. We've just got to buckle in and be kinder, nicer people, human, humble, transparent.
Yeah.
The 45-day clause. Oh, that lit up like a Christmas tree. But
fly, is it?
It's. But then again, who should we be angry at? And the truth is, we're just in it together, and we've just got to chuck along.
Well, you can point the finger for how long? It's just going to go pear-shaped if you keep looking for blaming everyone's not the answer to your problem.
Generally, it's too painful for people to take ownership and look at themselves, and that's why blaming happens.
But once you do that, you're actually probably better for it, and you've got a direction forward. Yeah. And learned that in the last couple of days.
What, taking ownership?
Well, we take ownership.
Yeah. It's important, and
understanding yourself.
Yeah, and I just think just humanly, where humanly possible, there's never ever just one person at fault. On some level, somewhere along the line, you look at any marriage breakup, any relationship breakup, any this conversation here. I mean, for most of it, I ruled it, but
done well.
Yeah, I did do well.
The last one
you did well, actually. I was a bit worried.
The last one on the 5 is finance.
Oh, finance. Yep.
Finance is a big one.
Cool.
You've got to understand early your parameters, your budget, and how that looks for you based on that. That can only ever be dealt with by the people and their situation, both working, whatever that might be, and how that looks. Like Troy brought to attention with you, that will dictate how the structure of your agreement with a builder. So, I mean, and how that looks can very much determine, a builder with everything in there, really got nowhere to go. So they can probably be a bit more hard and fast on you because they know you're this and they're the only ones that can give it to you.
Yeah.
So there's that other, not without being harsh, but there is, we're all, it is what it is. And what that what I'm trying to say is that, you know, if they understand or they know that you can only really go to some point and they're really the only ones that can provide that service to you, you just become, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Sign that piece of paper.
Yeah.
And all those things that we've been talking about that you should be doing and that goes out the window, because the human person sitting there that wants their home, put their wife in you, potentially want to have kids in the next few years, or got kids that are going to go to private schools, so that money needs to, you know, they're thinking about that. They're saying, well, if I don't do this now, it's not going to happen. And sign some
No,
piece of
but that's
paper.
all the more reason why they need to come back to it being about the product rather about the bells and whistles, because if it is that family person that's thinking of, you know, having their kids in a family home for the next 20 years, you want that product to last. You want that product to be stable. So, you know, I say this all the time, make it about the product. And then from there, build the dream and build the home and, you know, all the nice things inside of it. So very few people that I meet can tell me why they're actually building. Oh, you know, I want this, I want that, but why are you building? And I had one recently, a $680,000 home, and when she realised, they actually stopped. They didn't go through with their build. You won't want to hear this one, but they actually stopped and they bought an established because they realised it wasn't fitting the lifestyle that they had, their future vision of themselves. So why build it?
It's not. I don't want to hear it. What's going on out there? You know, I'll say that. Not that I put myself in a situation, but you sit there talking to people and you go, look, you know, would you do it? No. But is it going to be any different down the road? Probably not. Like the brickie's not going to go from $2.50 as an analogy back to $1.50.
No.
So, and timber's not going to go backwards. You know, so that the monetary and the cost part of it won't change. It's going to be set. That's you know, and that's what you're going to be paying to build a home.
Yeah.
So what's going to change?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't go out my way talking people out, talking building, by the way. Let's make that clear distinction.
Right.
But for them, it wasn't, most of them go through. Most of them go, yeah, okay, now, but what happens in this process when I do it is they start to understand what they need to pay attention to rather than what, you know, they shouldn't be. And that's the whole thing. It's about bringing that to a place where they're now understanding. You know, I mean, you would see it yourself if someone's going to build a home for a rental property opposed to, you know, for their family. It's going to be different, isn't it? So understanding why you're building. Let's quickly 5 quick fire questions.
Cool.
See how quickly your brain works.
Oh, it's not that good. Anyway, I'll try.
5 questions you should ask your salesperson.
Oh, shivers. 5 questions you ask your sales rep.
Did I put pressure on because I said
did.
quick?
Quick. Yeah, you did. That's why I'm going really slow, because you said quick. So my brain immediately just wants to do it as slow as I can. 5 things to ask your rep. What's your square metre rate? How do you establish your brief? What are the outcomes if we proceed to go forward? What questions should I be asking? Are there any concerns that you can make me aware of in doing this right now?
Excellent, thank you.
I think I was wrong.
Do you know what?
Made no sense.
It's actually the favourite question because for me, because then what I do is I take those 5 questions and I explore them.
And I'll go, damn it, I should have told him that one.
You can add. We'll have you back again.
Should have a mic in the car when we're driving home. So.
Start doing that because then you can go, next podcast with Deb is going to be A, B, C and D. All right, let's do some myth busting, quick ones. You need a slush fund for any unforeseens. True or false?
Yes.
Absolutely
I
true.
always say,
true, everybody, true.
What's your brief, what's your budget, what's your contingency?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Percentage range? No, okay. Too hard?
Not too hard. It's just... Yeah,
it's endless.
So I'll ask that and people go, what do you mean I need a contingency? So, you know, percentage... you know, in our space, it's a matter of how far you want to take it. If you want a gold tap, you can have a gold tap, but that's up to you. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
So, in that project analogy,
I meant probably for things going wrong.
Well, yeah, but my analogy is that things going wrong. Well, what that you're going to sign a building contract, and then the builder's going to turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, timber's gone up, it's going to cost you another 30 grand, or no, maybe not 30 grand, but 10 grand, stuff like that. Well, that's an each to their own conversation. That's a question to ask the rep if they can answer it.
Okay.
With whomever you're talking to. Builder that is.
Okay.
In all honesty, jump on Shonky Builders, find out.
You're not allowed to name people on this site.
Sorry.
Beep.
Beep, sorry. I got the eyes.
You got the
eyes for the first time.
Hang on, twitchy eye. That's okay. The social media, we know it's there. We know it's there. Well, that was one of my questions actually, which have these problems. You've been in the industry a long time. Are the problems all the same that we've seen over the last 20 years? Have they got worse, or are we just being more aware of them because of social media?
The narrative on that sort of stuff has changed with what's going on at the time. So as you can see, people are signing contracts, or people are, there's an expectation they would sign contracts and these things would happen. Well, they're not happening because of whatever reason, the volume of work that guys have got on, trying to get the trades, et cetera. But in my opinion, the narrative's changed, but it all sounds very much the same. And then I'll say, well, you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah. Oh, not that saying. What is it? The peanut one, pay peanuts and you get monkeys. Yeah. Oh, I want to just hit people when I hear that. Because to people that are paying $450,000, that they don't think that they are paying for monkeys. That's they don't see that. So it's quite an offensive comment to make to people.
But still, it comes back to education.
Yep, we're doing that.
Talk to, there's reasons why they do what they do, and there's reasons why they're there. So understand why.
Yeah.
And I know that the power of the dollar. I was having a conversation with someone this morning, but this person's gone out to a couple, and then one's so much cheaper than the others, and it's just too hard not to keep looking at that number. Yet the other 2 or 3 that have come through are about the same.
Yeah.
But she's hanging her head on that number. So it will be too cheap.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
So what's the question?
Send her my way. I'll have a chat to her.
It's... so like I was saying before...
And that's why extracting the value and homeowners understanding why they're building the home would probably change that paradigm, because she can't see right now her reason, and you change that paradigm, suddenly it becomes about value of what she's getting opposed to the dollar.
Exactly. Well done, Deb.
I know. That was free.
That was a good one.
You should. Can you?
I think I've got that written down.
Okay, put that in your mind. But it's true.
I'll put
that with the flowers. Make sure they're expensive flowers. I can't wait till she rings me and goes, "Thank you so much." He hasn't bought me flowers in 30 years, and now
that's not.
She'll think you're having an affair. That's usually what they think.
Yeah, come all the way with it.
All right. More risk with smaller builders. I think we kind of covered that one somewhere along the line, didn't we?
But again, it's just education. Doing your homework on the builder.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
The social highway these days, or Google, and it's not hard.
But there's a lot of misinformation. Well,
Well, that's when you go have
reviews.
hard questions.
Okay, well, let me throw a hard question at you.
Everyone's got good testimonials, don't they?
Well, let me throw a hard question at you then. Let me ask you. Confidentialities. Are builders hiding behind confidentialities to get good review sites? Like, we're not seeing the ones that... Because a lot of people go to the review sites to see whether they're a good builder, but the reality is confidentialities do get signed if things go wrong across the board.
And what do you think? That these things don't happen? Where are you going with it, Deb?
Is it to protect the builder? Is it to, is there a more transparent... I always come back to the how. How do we improve the transparency of this? Are there builders out there hiding behind their confidentialities?
It's a business, Deb.
It's a business. Okay.
So it's a business.
I gave you time to think about that question.
You did.
I did.
And I've had, I don't know how long, an hour or two. But no, yeah, that's another day.
Yeah.
But it's
You know
good
what?
question though.
Yeah,
But
and it's one I struggle with. It's one I struggle with for this reason, Reg.
You won't win that fight, Deb.
No, I'm not about winning a fight.
Sorry.
I'm not about winning a fight, but it's the one I struggle with because a builder that has spent 40 years building their reputation, building their business, building everything that they are, to lose it to a mistake is kind of unfair, isn't it?
It is.
However, if it's a constant thing that is happening and being seen, then should homeowners be aware of the risk? And then on the other side of this is looking at,
But are you asking me as a builder, should that be made available? I'll say yes. I look. If you're not doing anything, well, I'd like to think if I'm not doing anything wrong. I built over 300 homes.
Yeah.
You don't see, and look, we've all had them.
Yeah.
I've had one or two, but it's how you
resolve it.
Resolve it and move forward.
Yeah.
I believe in true transparency, but for me that doesn't
And that's
concern
why-
me because we're not hiding anything.
Yeah. And that's why I struggle with the confidentialities, because if you, regardless of the relationship, if you are building trust, confidentialities do not say we've built trust.
Well, then you've really thrown that out the window, haven't you? When you put that piece of paper in front of someone.
Yeah.
So
that's where I struggle with it. But it is a topic for another day.
It's an interesting. You're right. I agree. To what extent? And there'd be a lot of it. There'd be. I'd have no doubt. But how do you delve into that, Deb? How do you truly understand or find out? Is that what we're saying? Is it to what degree it's occurring?
I'd like to know to what degree it's occurring, and I'd also like to get a deeper understanding of why it's so important to have them. If this relationship is important to us, our values are about resolving it in an amicable, a win-win, then as soon as you throw that confidentiality, it's not saying it's a win-win. It's saying
it yourself.
Yeah.
You only need one, and it can hurt.
But if you've worked,
you only need one bad client, Deb. You could do everything. You could try and do everything right, and it's still not good enough. Now that's human emotion, or the parts of the process, how the process has happened. To get to that breaking point, that someone would just sit there and go, nope, I'm going to keep biting until this person breaks. It's sad to say, but people are out there that do that.
It does.
Mind you, 90% or most of society aren't, but they're out there.
Yeah.
But we give on with that as well. That sort of gets thrown out the window because on the flip side of having this conversation, you've got the social pages of that. You can really, you could have one bad brickworks. I don't like the brickwork or something, and you could just post whatever you like.
Yeah.
The
socials are something
does it
that
not form part of this conversation?
Well, the socials are an unfair measure because
But where else do people go to find out?
Excuse me for a minute. Perth Building Shelter, we're here to help. And that's why we started this. That is the core, because when I went through it, there was nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere to get those answers. There was no one to say, look, we're listening, or we can hear you, other than those social media pages. And then we talked about this the other day, didn't we, John, that there is a lot of wealth of knowledge in those pages. And if I can extract the wealth of knowledge that is in those pages and bring them over and be part of the solution rather than problem, the socials are diabolical. They're there for a reason. A lot of them, one of them in particular is a political site homeowners don't know that. They're going there for help. They don't know it's a political site with a political agenda. So, let's talk about it. Let's just say, hey, it's got its purpose, but now let's give them somewhere to go. And I personally would have liked to have seen a government department pick this up. It wasn't through lack of trying that we tried to get that, but everywhere's under-resourced. They don't see it as a major problem, I guess. But we're down here seeing the human emotion being affected, human lives being affected, relationships, money, financial, health department, the whole range. So that's, I guess why we're doing it. So
there's a few things,
number of things.
Well, there's areas that, even as in the industry and being in the industry for quite some time, you look over, you put a compass over the whole structure, the whole entity, the whole industry. There's many ways that things could be done better. I mean, another, a great example is that as a builder, whether we close out on this or however it works, but me as a builder could be another podcast. I put warranties. Technically the legislation says that a structural warranty is 6 years. That's legislation. That's law.
Yeah.
You can have 7, 10, 25. You can do what you want. But the law says that structural warranties are only good for 6 years. After that, it's your own problem. So there's a little gap. There's a little gap there. Indemnity insurance, another one day. But in the structural component of a home, or when building a home, there's only 3 bodies or 3 track contractors that are ticketed or licensed. The painter, the electrician, and the plumber.
Is the painter registered now?
Yeah, it'll be registered painter. Yep.
Okay, because I know that.
Well, let me finish.
I'll let you finish.
Sorry. No.
Yes,
I'm gonna lose my. See, now I've lost my track.
Okay, there's only 3 contractors. Okay.
No, but
I was listening.
So I give
3 contractors.
So I've got a concreter, a bricklayer, a roof carpenter. You would pick their structural components, major structural components of a home that I take a warranty on, but I don't take anything off of them. He could have started concreting yesterday. Not to say that he would, but that's my analogy.
Okay.
So why not everybody?
All right. So my last question for you then. You're obviously for registration of trades.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the right step forward.
Yeah,
for accountability as well.
Yeah, and that's the main reason I feel from being a homeowner's point of view. One, it would give you a bit more peace of mind, but also that accountability. Yeah, I think that we need to see it happening in the industry.
Yeah, and that's a big one. That's.
But it's not to say we can't have it. It's about saying, okay, let's just deal with 1 or 2 of the issues and focus on that and get that right. And then next year we do the next one, just like you do in your company. Every year you said you sit down and you're constantly evolving. But when we just go, too hard basket, it's not going to happen. It's a big one. We deny the opportunity for that growth to happen. So, and I'm not saying it's easy by any means. I know that there might be people out there going, this woman has no idea what she's talking about. It's
me
too
too.
big.
And I do it for a living.
There you go. But it's about getting off that hamster wheel and saying, okay, provisional sums. Oh, I might need to move back on it. No, we're not going to go. We're not.
The lights in the room just went down.
We're not going to go down. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole. But
it's not a rabbit hole.
I'm just curious. As a builder,
that word.
Curious. I'm curious. I'm like a detective.
I
am going to put you on the spot. As a builder, what would your feelings be if provisional sums were capped at a percentage? So rather than just have this open end of provisional sums are provisional sums and builder can do whatever they like with it, if you said, right, provisional sums are capped at 15%, 20%, that's it. And then above and below.
And then what happens when I get an excavator on site and there's no rock?
Well, then you've got unforeseen.
Then I hit cap rock.
then you've got unforeseen clause.
Okay. So then you sit down with the client, you go, this is the cost, boom, boom, boom. You sort it out and you keep moving forward.
Yeah. I just think it should be capped.
Okay.
It's just a thought.
It's a good thought.
It is a good thought.
Another time.
It is for another time. But I guess, it allows for that. I mean, most builders have been doing it a very long time, and there would be a rough number that say, we never really go above and below.
Look,
on majority.
If you're building out, if you're building out in new estates, bar, unforeseen what's in the ground, your site works and your stormwater really shouldn't vary that much.
No.
It becomes a difficult when you do what I do and we build in established areas, knockovers and rebuilds. That becomes a different kettle of fish because there's a lot of unforeseens. Even when the house is there, then when the house is demolished, until you actually get there and doing it, it's a look. And we've been doing it for a long time. So and the guys that I use, if not putting Bellagio on the spot, but the guys that we use, we work with our guys to, what do you think? Let's go have a look. And there's always ways to better understand potential areas of concern. Have it there, have it documented, talk about it, move on. And really, you say that it should be capped. Well, if I'm doing that, then why do I need it capped if I've really covered those?
Well, for a reputable company like yourself, you probably don't. But there's a lot out there. Like I had a homeowner, there was one that was a 65% difference in the provisional sum, and it wasn't an unforeseen, it was something they could have quoted on. So then we look at it, well, is this understating? So it was an interesting one, and we do everything so it doesn't go down the road of building commission and things like that. But
that's if the cap anyway.
Well,
that takes forever.
Do you know what? We are not going to open that because every time I make that comment in the podcast, we end up another hour. So it is a scary place, but we're not going to address it today. So. But, it's those sort of things that we see and we go, okay, how can we make this better? How can we stop things like that happening? It might be for the minority. Yeah. But the minority,
that we can all follow.
Something, to me, that's black and white. Now we've got a ruling that says, okay, you've gone over 10%, because we thought it was 10%. We thought there was either above or below 10% cap. But I went digging and got the answer the other day, and there's no percentage.
HIA or MPA?
HIA.
Yeah.
So, but it's just I go, okay, let's look at this contract. What can we make more black and white, so it's really clear? Provisional sums is a big one. Anyway. Yeah. It's been such a pleasure having you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much because I realise end of financial year is busy time. You've made time. I know that you came for the lunch only and my wonderful baking skills. Yeah. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and we did dig deep on some of the topics today, and I don't think we've left anything cover it up.
No, I'm sure there's more things on the track. But
I think you challenged me a couple of times.
Yeah,
okay, that's what needed. It's what it's about.
No. So well, thanks for having me, Deb. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm going to hit Troy up. Yeah.
I don't know.
You get to see his face. He's very rolling his eyes at me and all sorts of things. So I believe Troy's going to jump on with me when he gets back on holiday. I mean, Didn't he hear there's a boom? What's he doing having a holiday at this time? Hey?
Yeah, we can talk about that another time. Maybe another lunch.
Maybe another podcast, eh?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
The information and opinions presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on it should not be without seeking professional advice. Perth Building Shelter does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organisation presented or mentioned in this podcast unless stated otherwise. Perth Building Shelter disclaims all liability for any loss arising out of any individual's use of or reliance on the information presented in the podcast.